Hello and welcome to devlog number 2 for my Spanish town environment. So I'm really happy today to share some of the progress I've done recently. The environment is really starting to take shape and it's been a blast to work on this. I'm having so much fun. It's actually a very compact space that I'm giving my best to make it feel real. Like that's my main goal with this environment, is to make the player feel like he's there in that environment. And for that, I'm going to use a VR as well to make sure that the scale and the compositions and everything is nice. So yeah, let's just jump into Unreal and see how much I've done so far. So here's where the player starts. It's going to be a tunnel, and then you go up, and as you come outside, you have the coast on your left, which I blocked out with some very simple geometry as well, but I'm really happy with how the vista turned out. It's very important that in the blockout you can already see how the final space is going to look like. So for me here, when I look at this, I can already see exactly how it's going to look like in the end. And to the right of the tunnel, you have this back alley that I want to have it covered in plants and make it very lush and very colorful. So this is going to be a very fun area to work on. And back to the main street. So here I want to have a bakery and a cafe, and then all the other buildings, they're going to use reusable buildings. So I really want to keep the scope under control in this environment. So I'm going to try to use a 80-20% ratio. So 20% of my assets are going to be unique buildings and the other 80% are going to be reusable buildings. I really like to work this way because it's a very fun and fast way to cover large areas at the same time. So you go down the street, and I'm really playing with the angle variations here, like height variation is nice, because I want the street to feel very organic. And the streets in Europe, especially in older towns, usually they're very like snaky and curvy. So I really want to capture that mood. And also adding some overhangs and architecture that's higher than you to kind of encourage the player to look up and use the full 360 senses around. And so you keep going. Then as you turn here, you see the church. And I just made sure that the composition from this angle it looks interesting, you know. So you make the curve, and then bam, like you know the church is ahead of you. And I'm also playing with some of the lines here, you know, like making the road a little curved, just to make this composition more interesting. You know, I really like to make roads that are more organic and a little curvy, so I tend to avoid using modular chunks for this, because when you use modular chunks, it's very easy to have the environment look like it was built on the grid. And I'm doing my best here to make this environment feel organic. It's not built on the grid, it's built on the rocks, you know, so the city is integrated with the landscape. So you walk up here, and that's where the environment ends for now. I have this roundabout and this tunnel that I'm going to close later, but I just want to make all the boundaries in the map feel natural. So you got the church here. I haven't worked on the design yet. I just put some shapes in there just so I have a sense of scale and composition, but I'm gonna work heavily on this. I still need to do more research and figure out what kind of church I'm going to make, but the size is going to be roughly this. And here I'm playing with different heights. So I have this near backdrop here, and I'm reusing the same buildings that I made previously, and I want to have this layering here to enhance this parallax effect. Like when you move around the camera, you can notice this parallax, you know, like the different layers of composition. So this gives a much higher sense of scale and perspective and depth. And another very important thing that I'm doing here is I'm actually occluding the other areas with my geometry to make sure that I'm only drawing what's needed. You know, that I don't have any sight lines that are causing the engine to draw too much geometry. Especially for VR, optimization is really important. So you really need to just think about that when working on a map. And I can give an example here. So if these rocks were not here, the player would be able to see those buildings, and because of that, the engine would start rendering and drawing all the geometry in there. And it doesn't really add too much in this case to the sense of space, so I'm using just these rocks to occlude here. And the way I built this environment, it's very easy. I created this modular kit that I'm going to share with the tutorial owners. It's basically a collection of solids and like basic shapes that you can scale any direction, and the material scales with it. Yeah, I believe I showed this on the previous devlog. But it's pretty cool because all the pieces, they snap together. So it's very easy to make all kinds of shapes quickly with this. And because they have light map UVs, I mean like optimized light map UVs, you get a really nice bake out of it. So all of this is just a preview bake. I didn't change any lighting setting. The only thing that I added here was the height fog for the backdrop, but everything else is the standard Unreal settings. Even the sun angle, I haven't touched that yet. And because I unwrapped this light map UVs in a way that it enhances specific faces, you get these really clean bakes, even with a preview bake. So where do I go from here? So my next step now is to polish this up. So I noticed some problems when I was running in VR around this. The door is super tall in VR, like it was way out of scale. So I wanted to fix some of that stuff and just flesh out this environment a little bit more before I start replacing this geometry with the blockout, with the real blockout geometry. So all that you see here now is kind of, I wouldn't say throwaway work, but I'm going to replace everything with real geometry. So that's why it doesn't matter that like a lot of this stuff is Z fighting, because I just want to get the idea quick. So it's a very effective way to let your imagination flow and just see what you can create out of it. And as I promised last time, I'm going to open the pre-order window again for this tutorial. And so when you pre-order, you're basically locking down the lowest price possible. I'm going to have two versions of the tutorial when it comes out. So one will be the standard version with all the videos and stuff, but then I'll have the Founders Edition, which is the one that has like crazy ton of value. You know, like it's going to have every single asset I made, bonus content, extra stuff, and this version will go for about $300 because I'm also going to put up these assets for sale on the Unreal Marketplace. So by pre-ordering the Founders version, you have access to everything that I create for this tutorial. And you can do that now if you go to my Gumroad until Wednesday night, California time. And you can pre-order that version for only $50. And the cool thing about this is you're not charged right now, you're only charged after the tutorial comes out. So by pre-ordering now, you're just locking down the price, the lowest price you can get. So yeah, if you want to get the tutorial, like I highly encourage you to do it now, because the more I update, the price will go up slightly. And one last thing that I want to invite you is to sign up to my mailing list. I've been writing some exclusive content for my mailing list. I just recently sent one on how to make a higher salary at your current job. That had a really good response, and the mailing list is a great place to stay in touch, you know, because like Twitter, Facebook, or ArtStation and stuff, like we usually get drowned in all this information and so much stuff at the same time. So with the email we can stay in touch, and it just feels more intimate, more personal. So if you wanna do that, you can just go to my website and you can click on subscribe here, and then from here you can just enter your name, your email. And yeah, that's it for now. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, ArtStation, Instagram, all the stuff if you want to stay in touch. And I hope to get back soon with some cool updates. Take care, and thank you for watching.